So,
So you
so
want
just see if you can cancel it or just pause it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I guess before we get started, for all the participants that are here and the ones that are will be joining in, we are recording the session. And if there is something sensitive that you care to discuss, we will stop the recording and then we'll announce that we're going to stop the recording. And then we can come back and when we're back recording again. So I guess with that being said, we'll go ahead and we'll start the meeting. And I guess, Nisi, would you kind of open us up with a prayer, please?
I will. Let us breathe in and out that substance that's readily available for us. We don't have to go looking for it. That is the power that we all use to be here tonight for our peace talks with our membership, and hopefully we will share this with the world. And we know that our communication and peace is important during this season of nonviolence, and each of us are activists in that. So we give thanks to be here, and this conversation is going to enlighten us and take us further than we know how to go. And so it is.
And so it is.
It is.
All right. Well, thank you. So as we go kind of forward, we now last Wednesday's conversation and topic was interesting. And we had Barry Brown, I believe, was with us. And
Yes.
Nisi,
Yes.
and he was I really enjoyed his topic, and Nisi kind of was talking about me and talking about Barry, and I says, well, I made the announcement last week, so whoever was here last week, my topic won't be as good, and I took and admitted it to the whole audience. So and I said, we'll do, and this is like peace talks. It's all a friendly environment and peaceful environment, and that's what we need to put out there is peaceful intentions. And hi, Geneve. And just so that you're aware, we're recording the session here.
Thank you, guys.
And if you need to say something, we'll take and pause it before, or if it's something personal you don't want to share, we'll take and pause and then pick up then.
Okay.
Okay. And then, so I guess tonight's.
You want me to start that off?
All right, that'll be good.
Okay. Peter did his homework. And so he looked up the definition of cooperation.
And that's the topic of tonight's
Yes.
peace talk is cooperation.
So it says, can you hear me okay?
Wonderful.
Okay. Cooperation is the process of working together with others to achieve a common goal or mutual benefit. It involves individuals or groups combining their efforts, resources, and skills to accomplish tasks more effectively and efficiently than they could alone. Cooperation can occur in various contexts, such as workplaces, communities, schools, and among nations. It's about synergy, collaboration, and teamwork, where everyone's contributions are valued, and the collective efforts lead to a shared success. It's the we mindset instead of just me. And it's fundamental to building strong, harmonious relationships and achieving better goals. Is there a, okay, I'm not going to read that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so if I could say something.
Sure.
Here, when I read this, he says, here that it's about synergy, collaboration, and teamwork. And when I read that, it reminded me of something that my son-in-law said. So we were visiting my daughter and son-in-law and children, grandchildren. And I think we were going on a picnic. That was when we went to Hawaii to visit them. So we're, getting everything ready that morning, getting ready to go on our little journey. And Jason, my son-in-law, he has the kids at the table and everybody's doing something. You got the bread out, whatever else we were going to eat. And I don't know, somebody kind of complained, you know how kids are. And Jason said, remember, teamwork makes the dream work. And I thought, wow, I'm so glad that he shared that, because it's true, isn't it? That when we work together as a team, rather than pulling against one another, whether it's family, our SEC community, our Dothan community,
Or Peter.
our nation, no matter what it is, from the smallest to the largest, if we work together, then we can make a common goal achieved.
Jan, can you hear me?
Yes.
You were breaking up quite a bit. We're almost right after you were introducing. You had some really good stuff that you were saying, and we did hear teamwork make the dream work, and then it started to break up again.
Okay,
And
I'm
we
sorry.
get Helen pretty good, so we is on your end of that it's breaking up on. And I think you were suggesting
Turn the
something, Jan?
video off. Turn your video off
Oh, turn our video
and
off?
see if that helps.
I don't know because I'm hearing them loud and clear. So I don't know if it is Peter and Jan.
Okay, so with no interruptions, you didn't hear any interruptions at all?
No, it's just been flowing really.
Helen?
Oh, it is already.
It is.
Okay, maybe I could start over. Peter's
Okay, so
got the video. He has the video off and
We need to look into one day soon.
I'm gonna switch you to my hotspot, so if I lose you, I'll sign right back in.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I guess.
I got it. I know it's really early on, but I got to go for a little while. So I wanted to check in with everyone. I love you all, and I'll
love
see
you, Helen.
Bye.
Bye. We'll see you. It's breaking up.
Hello? Peter, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, Helen, I think had to leave.
she did.
So let's go ahead and we'll see if that helps at all.
You got the recording going again?
Oh, one sec. Yeah, it looks like it's still going.
Okay.
Yeah. It is.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Okay. Okay, so Helen said she heard you very well, Jan, but we lost you a little bit when you were introducing what cooperation was. We got the first half, but not the second half.
Okay, but you heard when I read from Peter's notes, right?
Yeah, it's part of it. Most of it actually, but it just
How
started.
about,
Well, maybe just.
how about if I just start over?
Okay.
Is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah,
I'll make it fast. Okay, so cooperation is the process of working together with others to achieve a common goal or a mutual benefit. It involves individuals or groups combining their efforts, resources, and skills to accomplish tasks more effectively and efficiently than they could alone. Cooperation can occur in various contexts, such as in workplaces, communities, schools, and among nations. It's about synergy, collaboration, and teamwork where everyone's contributions are valued and the collective efforts lead to a shared success. It's the we mindset instead of just me. And it's fundamental to building strong, harmonious relationships and achieving bigger goals. So this is the definition that Peter found. And when I read here where it said it's about synergy, collaboration, and teamwork, it reminded me of something that my son-in-law said when we were visiting them. And he had all the kids, you know, they've got 3 children, and he's real organized, and he can get them going doing different jobs. And we were putting together our lunch for that day before we went exploring. And I don't know, one of the kids kind of whined, you know, they didn't want to have to do that. And Jason reminded them, hey, remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Our dream was to have a nice picnic on the island of Hawaii. So if one person had to do it all, it just wasn't going to work as well as if we all work together, then we can get it done. And of course, that was just for a picnic. That wasn't for some type of big project like we might have at the Spiritual Enrichment Center, where we have to all work together to get something done, or in our community to get something done, or in our nation, or really, if we think about it, in the world. That might be a little more difficult, but if we can remember that if we're working on a common goal, it's what's good for you and me. So that was my take on the definition. So you want to?
Well, I and
to that,
a little
or
bit
ask-
to kind of follow up a little bit about what Jan though too is like in team, you know, even back in the my younger years, we would sometimes get around and talk, and we'd always say there's no I in team. So in team is a group working together, and to work that group, you need the cooperation. So.
And even if it's not a family, if it's a marriage, you know, we've got to remember that too, because if one person gets their way all the time, that other person is going to feel unimportant. Like you know, my needs count as well as yours. So we have to remember that we have to work together in order to get to that common goal.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Not
Now, if we keep going through quickly, we'll get to the question and answer section here. But I guess as far as like an introduction for cooperation is a cornerstone of progress, enabling individual groups and communities to achieve their goals. And from everyday interaction to large-scale endeavors, cooperation fosters synergy, enhances productivity, and nurtures harmonious relationships. Adding a spiritual context to the cooperation deepens it significantly, illuminating how working together can elevate our collective or individual experiences. So,
Well, why don't we ask them what are their definitions? How would they
we
define it?
can, sure.
Is that Rose right there on the end?
Yes.
Rose,
Yeah.
you want to start us off? What's your ideas, or what's your definition of cooperation?
No. I don't want to start us off. I'm gonna listen to y'all.
Okay, well, just pass it on to Glenda then.
Thank you for cooperating.
So what was the question?
What can you add to what this definition is that I just read?
Of
What's your-
cooperation, if
Yeah, your definition. Or
Well,
could you add anything?
I'll say something. I picked, as I was thinking about the attributes for the season of nonviolence and learning my community, the reason why I picked you too was because you are very cooperative. You lead our lunch and lessons on second and fourth Sundays, and your husband is right there with you, and you're feeding us, and we're getting lunch and lessons. It's really kind of neat. And so what that told me was how this center was cooperative, because that was one of the things that I saw as I considered coming to this community to be a leader. And like you both said, I heard both of them at IBM. Teamwork makes a dream work, and there's no I in team. So hearing that reinforces what I know that collaboration is. And so the other thing that I see is just in our community, as we grow, that we can collaborate more with our community at some level. And I think some of these peace talks, I would like to go out to our community as we refine them, because I think our center has so much to offer. And as we commune and collaborate with our community, that's what it would mean to me, that it's not just SEC, it's like Dothan and Alabama and the United States and the globe, so that's what I see.
to cooperate as a group,
Well,
or a
she's
larger
saying
group.
expanding it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to a larger group, yeah.
Thank you, Nisi.
Welcome.
Cassie?
I don't really have anything profound to say. I mean, I really like when a group comes together to work on a project. To me, that's always a very satisfying thing, especially if it helps somebody or, something that needs to be done. It's always interesting though to watch the dynamics between people, the people who want to just take charge and people who don't want to take charge and just be told what to do. I don't know. Go ahead and talk about, Ron wants to talk about the band.
Okay, Ron.
Oh, God. I wanted her to talk about that. First of all, I was watching I will watch these crime dramas, usually set in Britain. And one of the main themes was, as this big group was trying to solve this murder, was the fact that the leader said, everyone's voice matters, from the index clerk to the chief detective. I want to hear everybody's suggestions. I want to hear everybody's questions. We need input from everyone. And I thought that was an important concept, because it's easy for people who are natural leaders to be natural leaders. And it's easy for people who are naturally followers to be naturally followers. But if the leaders don't let the followers get involved, if they don't don't listen to them, and if the followers don't say what they're thinking, we never get a whole picture. It takes all of us to allow the information to come in and flow. And I thought that was a really nice example of good cooperation, as making sure that everyone realized their opinions and matter and their questions, because a lot of times it's the quiet people who have the insights that other people haven't thought of.
That's true. Maybe because they're thinking instead of talking. Another thing I thought about when you were talking about that, is that we all have different talents. And what one person is really strong in, they may be weak in another area, and vice versa. And so, like, for example, in our SEC community, there are different jobs that a certain person might fit into easier. And it might not seem like a big job. Like Nisi's job is a big job, but maybe other things that we can do there at the center might not be as big with the spotlight on us, but they're important. And it's an important part of the whole machine of working as a group. So, I mean, am I making myself clear that, there might be some jobs that may seem insignificant, but they're really needed. I mean, we need everybody doing what they can do. And just like in the family situation, the youngest in the family may not be able to do what her older brother can, but she can do something. And like everybody can do a little bit. And then if we all do a little something, then it's collaboration.
Well, I guess kind of funneling back to cooperation, as we're kind of doing like all these things. And maybe kind of like going back into the maybe it's this spiritual realm, kind of going back there. It's kind of like when, we can use the example when we were there doing the cutting up the wood. It's some were, stronger, well, or whatever, but everybody filled a valuable part of it. But there was just this flow where we did it as a group, and there really wasn't, any anybody just kind of, it was as a group, and we all cooperated together, which was, there was oh yeah, I'll take a break, or I'll do this here, and it was just being helpful and respectful of one another. And and all that comes into being cooperative.
And Ron, I kind of interrupted you there. So did you want to continue on?
Oh, ma'am, because I'll continue on for the next hour and a half.
But something he brought up that he wanted Cassie to talk about was a band. I guess they're in a band, I believe.
Yeah.
They're in a band. And I like bands. I like concerts, and I like going to listen to music, and that's cooperation. I'm a jazz, I love jazz, and I think jazz artists can just kind of come in and start playing even easier than any other group. So that's harmonious. So I also, hearing the band part, they made me think about cooperation being harmonious. Every instrument is different, or how they play it, but when they come in and play it, it just sounds so good together, and they're all unique playing.
Yeah.
So-
That's a
Good
good
point.
comparison. I think that's a good comparison, because a band, an orchestra, performance, it has to work with others, or it's not good.
And as Cassie could tell you, if she would, there are few dynamics that are more difficult to cooperate in than a band, because there's so many different types of needs and desires. And it can be very ego driven. There's nothing like a band to push your buttons as because they're people you love and people that you like doing things with. But it's kind of like family, only more intense, because you can walk away from your family sometimes you can't walk away with the band. And so that takes a really high level of cooperative skills, the ability to listen to each other, to accept other people's points of view, but to come to some common agreement. And it's, yeah, it's,
That's a good point, because you mentioned two things, that you have to agree with one another and then accept someone else's point of view. Is that exactly what you said?
okay, and sometimes you can't, I mean, sometimes you can't all agree that this is what
That's
you,
true.
that this,
Right, yeah.
He made me think about the Beatles.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I was thinking
They,
about.
you know, they were fantastic, but they couldn't, at some point, they couldn't
They couldn't.
collaborate or cooperate, and everybody went their separate ways.
Yeah.
John did his thing, Paul did his thing, you know, everybody did their own thing
Yeah.
at some
and
point.
it's a band is a catalyst for learning how to cooperate.
Mm,
I agree.
Family too, though, right?
Family too.
Well, I was thinking of my band experience with the all-female rock band, the Mall Girls. And that was very intense. We used to joke that we were all married, but we wanted to get a divorce,
Yeah.
but we had to stay together
Yes.
for the good of the band.
Oh, that's-
And, but it does get hairy, because to be a performer, you do have to have a certain ego. You have to put yourself out there. So all of us were bringing that to the table, but then, who gets to shine on what's, whose song we're doing, all those ego things, working
Yeah.
out.
Don't you think though, Janine, that corresponds to what I was saying before, like at SEC, we all have different talents, and we can all do different things, and some things are, at the top of the pyramid, where it's very, very important. We just can't do without that. If we just forget to take out the garbage on Potluck Sunday, that's not going to be a good result. But I mean, we're not going to fall apart because of it. So, different people have different talents, but I think, wouldn't that be the same way in a band? Because you might not think of the drums as important, because, we like the melody, but it keeps that beat, and it adds spice to the work. And so
People say that-
it's just as important. It might not seem like it if a drummer's not singing or not carrying a melody. He's just keeping the rhythm. What do you want to say?
the stage.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, no,
yes.
the
There's
drummer,
nothing worse
in
than
my
drum.
opinion, even
Yes.
as a lead singer, like,
Yes.
the drummer is the most
And
important.
that's the thing
Most
about
important.
this cooperation, like it is in SEC. Every part is important, and they may not stand out, but every part is important. And all it takes is one part consistently screwing up
Right,
to let you know how important that is.
yeah.
It seems like that one thing that I'm hearing from what everybody's sharing is that it takes respect. That you
Yes.
have to have respect for
Yes.
each person
Avery.
and what they do, whether
Yes.
it's the lead person or just a
Or the
smaller
trash
part,
taker.
or the trash
Mhm.
taker out. Each person has to respect what everybody else does.
But
So,
sometimes
and,
in a
and I
group-
wanted to kind of interject because, we're still, I want to go back to cooperation. And yes, we all understand that there's cooperation in the band and with every member. But I think Geneve kind of touched upon is like some of these other bands that kind of broke up. It was like their ego came in So you're kind of leaving your cooperation zone and going to your ego where you generate the friction then.
Okay, so
You
I
know,
have
so
a
you kind
question.
of leave one realm to the other then. It's like you're kind of
I have
out
a
of
question for
cooperation then.
The group though.
Okay.
If someone notices that one person seems to be dominating everybody else and kind of taking over and not really listening to what someone else says because they want to do what they want, how do you address that?
Oddly enough, that happened in my recent experience. And the key is that there's a difference between respecting someone's opinion and agreeing with it. The idea is, especially in a group setting, whether it's SEC, whether any kind of group setting, everybody needs to be able to express their opinion. But just because you have a difference of opinion doesn't mean that you have to do what everybody says. But you can't,
Right.
you can't do, if you've got 5 different opinions, it's really not respect if you're trying to do what everybody says, because that's not cooperation. It's not a common goal. It's and that's kind of precisely what happened. One of our band members had a different vision. And it was fine, and we tried to incorporate it as much as we could, but that vision didn't match the vision of the band. And so we had to decide, okay, what do we do? And everybody was always welcome, nobody, but and that's when ego kind of steps in sometimes.
Yeah.
You do the need to get what you want or to do it your way. And so what we did was we had a discussion about how we make decisions, about how we come to what's best for the band, how we.
What was the result?
Yes. Does that answer your question, kind of?
She said, what was
What
the
was
result?
What was the result though, when you came together to talk about, you know, the fact that we can't let our egos get in the way? How did you approach that other person?
We said pretty much exactly that the band and the music has to be more important than anybody else's central role.
Okay.
And that everybody fits and everybody has a part. But if one person's needs detracts from the overall good of the music and the band, then it needs to be tempered.
Yeah, and that's a tricky situation, isn't it? Because you don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. However, you've got a responsibility to your group.
Exactly.
Well, I guess I'm going to go back to, I'm going to drift back to cooperation again. And I'm going to go back to Nisi's comment and why she selected us. And so, you know, we could, as we were talking about the band, Jen and I could be the band.
Oh, yeah.
And we can have our conflict. You know, we can have our disagreements.
That's not my strong point.
Right,
Okay?
but
Cassie, you don't have to worry about me taking your place.
you know,
Yeah, good look.
we cooperate on different things, and it's like, we kind of give and take, and I guess because of again, the topic cooperation, that's probably part of why we're still here today. So,
Yeah.
and it's not letting the ego or the other side of you kind of take over, where we said, cooperation is a mutual thing. And then it's like, then there's other, then there's the other realm then. So.
And I don't think we heard from Genevieve, did we?
Well, tried.
I can't really remember some of a point that I was making, but one thing that I do think about with, everyone also has to be true to themselves in a group, and you want to collaborate, you want to cooperate, but sometimes something might feel like, I am going to die on this hill. I am not, I don't want to back down from my position just as a matter of my own integrity.
Yes.
And sometimes you just have to do that. And I think, in band situations, sometimes it does come down to competing visions, and everybody has to be true to their vision.
Exactly, exactly.
And so sometimes it's the best thing for it to break apart. I mean, I think about the Beatles. I love George Harrison. I'm like because I love his spirituality. And I think he felt a little stifled in the Beatles because it was John and Paul, and he was a songwriter too, but he hadn't had the same level of success. And maybe, who knows, maybe John and Paul, I don't know the full dynamics. I haven't watched all the documentaries, but maybe they kind of pushed their stuff more and controlled the band dynamic. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then the people that wanted to do more songwriting couldn't. So all those things come into play, but then when they played together as a group, it was awesome.
Us, right?
Us, but maybe George didn't feel fulfilled that he couldn't do more of his spirituality, songwriting, and I don't know.
And the important part is that there's no judgment there. Just
What-
because you don't have a common vision anymore, doesn't mean that there's anybody's right or wrong. It
Right.
just means it's time.
Right, yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And that's a dynamic in relationships too. Like you might have a friend that you've been friends with for a while, and you could really get along together, and then you have just a fork in the road, and you might have to part your ways. It doesn't mean that you hate that person or that person hates you, but for your own sanity and that of the other person, you might just have to part ways.
In AA and Al-Anon, I'm not much on the band. I don't know. When, I don't know nothing about the But in AA and Al-Anon, the traditions say that our common good should always come first.
Yes,
Putting principles before personality.
yes.
And they really have, they really manage. There are a lot of strong personalities, a lot of ego in those groups and all that, but they so often manage to pull it together and focus on what is the common good. And I think that's really important for us at SEC, just as you have said and others have said, Jan, is for us to focus on what is for our common good, putting principles before personalities, and cooperating and being respectful and honoring of each other.
That's a good point, Rose.
I like that
Mhm.
statement, principles before personality.
That is, I wrote that down.
Although Al-Anon, isn't it true though that Al-Anon and AA are very defined programs, and this is the program, and everybody kind of needs to follow that program? Whereas in a band, an original band, you're kind of forging your vision. Comes the competing
Yeah,
visions. and
yeah.
it's-
You're right. It is prescriptive.
Yeah,
In the 12-step programs, because their goal is to help people to get sober or stay sober.
Right.
And there is, it's not free flowing
Right.
like the music of a symphony or a band or whatever.
right.
That's a good point. Renee.
You made me think about, Rose, the bands that do still exist, because I told you, like, concerts. Earth, Wind and Fire has lasted, and
They're
so has
amazing.
Chicago, and because I saw them together actually, which was like explosive in my mind.
Yeah.
So is their formula like AA and Al-Anon, that they existed that long? Because they're still performing to this day, and They were performing, when I was a baby or a kid.
I'm
And
just
it was really-
speculating, but I think it's probably the chemistry of those people. Wouldn't you think?
And the goal to stay together.
And
yeah,
I think
Stay
well,
together.
brought them to mind.
Well, their music, Earth, Wind and Fire is so aspirational and hopeful and positive that I think that it's the overarching vision for, that it seems, I don't know, maybe there's a horrible documentary about the inner workings of
It could be. I did
The
hear something
drama.
about Maurice, but they stuck it out. It was like what
Mm.
Rose said, they overcame whatever obstacles that
Mhm.
were along the way, and they're still jamming
Mhm.
today.
Yeah. No, they're amazing.
3 original members still in the
Yeah.
band.
And that
Well,
would be,
You know, in not only in music, but one little story. Peter and I went to visit my uncle who's in the hospital here in Dothan. It was on Valentine's Day. And so my cousin brought his wife up there, and she had on a red blouse, and my cousin had taken her to get her hair done, and she just looked pretty, and she came over and she gave my uncle his Valentine, and she said, "I love you." And you have to know, he's in his 90s. I think she might be getting close to 90. Like maybe she's 89 and he's 92 or 93. They've been married. If they make it to December, it will be 70 years. And they had 4 children. And to still be together after 70 years. It just must be, they really knew, because they had problems with 4 kids. There's something,
There's something that would happen.
something always going
There's
on.
some earth, wind, and fire going on there in that family, I bet.
But keeping it, keeping that love, that flame still going after all these years, it's just a beautiful thing. And the same thing with these groups like Earth, Wind, and Fire, that you never get tired of, and they always lift your spirits, and they're still going.
Mhm.
yeah, at least some of them, and that's the thing. I think the reason they last is because they're willing to adapt. Some members go, some other members come in, but they're true to the music, they're true to the sound. And
Mhm.
because the sound, the principle is more important than the personalities, they continue to thrive or continue to play because of the commitment to the sound, just like the commitment to the marriage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like what you're saying, but I think for me, it leans to more what Rose said about the common goal, because
Yes.
they've got generations
Yes.
in the band now.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
They've got kids of the kids of the kids
Right.
Mhm.
in Earth, Wind, and Fire. So
Yeah.
now it's generational.
Mm.
Yes.
It may never die out,
Right.
if they keep this
Mhm.
thing going. So that's the common goal, and that's what I see at
Mhm.
SCC. What's our common goal?
Yes.
So even when we're gone, it's still rocking and rolling, we're
Mhm.
still doing our
Mhm.
thing, and it's
That's
a
a
part of
good
the legacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we want it to go on.
Yeah.
We want it to continue, even if we're not here. Just the
Yes.
fact that this exists in our community, this New Thought facility. And I have to pat Glenda on the back, because when I came to youth, when I came to New Thought, we were in a little building. It was just a little office building, and Glenda has just
But Jan, the other thing to remember is we had a whole, there was Winnie Lee, there was Don Pegg, there was Elon, Marvin, there were so many people who started it and now we're the next iteration, you know? So that's what we want to do is keep it going.
Mhm.
But you really watered that plant, and it has grown. And I hope that it continues to grow, like we were talking about with newer, well, I wouldn't say newer people, but younger people, you know, people of all ages.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, when Judy Pouncey spoke and she said that she was raised in the unity, you know, like that her parents were in unity, and I thought, ooh, I am so jealous. Yeah, like I wish I had known about this when, you know, been brought up into that mindset. But it's not too late and I'm still working on it. So yeah, but it would be good to get some other people, because in a town the size of Dothan, I mean, I know we're not a big city, you know, like Atlanta, but we have enough people here that surely there's some other people that are like us who want who want
Yeah.
A lot. There are,
Mhm.
there are, and they're dying to find a place to come.
Yes,
Well,
if we
this,
can reach them.
yeah, well, we have a YouTube channel, I heard. So I think this is where we're gonna put our conversations, our conscious
Mhm.
conversations that we're having on our spiritual enrichment YouTube, so people can try to find us that way too. And we put
Mhm.
our attributes out there, that what we're talking about. We're talking about peace, we're talking about communication, we're talking about cooperation, and that might draw people
Mhm.
to us that way too. So these recordings are really important, you know, other ways for us to get our message out into the world, that we're here to be happy and grow and expand.
Mhm.
And inclusive.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think maybe because New Thought is not well known, like the Baptists and the Methodists and the Episcopalians, even though we're not known or out there or a traditional type religion, or do we call ourselves a religion?
Spiritual.
A spirituality. Um, because we're of unknown, it might be foreign to some people. And, you know, a lot of people come in and then they leave, but then they may come back, you know.
So, but here's something here now about cooperation. And this, I remember about that. Jan was saying about it hasn't been around for a while, but I remember hearing in a class that's been around since what, the 1800s?
What?
The unity with Fillmore, the class you
Well, if
started.
you were a good student, you would know that. These people know
Well,
it.
I remember I was back there, but
Okay, that's enough. That's enough of that.
but see, and that's all a part of cooperation also. Where I've got to keep us on track here.
Or get us off track.
uh,
Okay. Do we have any more thoughts or any comments to make?
Can I ask though, when you are in a group and you feel like some people don't want to cooperate or they don't want to try and go for the larger goal, they're very stuck in their story or their way of thinking of how things should be. And I deal with this at work. I feel like I've seen it in SEC a little bit. I mean, sometimes I can get there too. You know, sometimes you aren't being flexible or flowing with the whole group. And how do you redirect to make it more of a group consciousness and a we consciousness towards a common goal?
Well, does he have an answer to that one?
To make a comment, I was looking back there to see if I could find the book, but there is a book by James Redfield. And James Redfield is the one that wrote the Celestine Prophecy and the Celestine Vision and the 10th Insight and things like that. And he has a book, and I would have recognized it if I'd seen it. I can't recall the name. But he says that if in a group situation, if everybody is tuned into the synchronicity in the group, that you know whose turn it is to talk and whose turn it is to be quiet. And he says that there are different ways that people do that. You have the grandstanders who always want to talk because they like the attention being focused on them. And then you have the people who are reticent to talk, and they're like the ones you all mentioned that might have something really important to say, but they don't want to say it. You know, they feel a little bit shy about it. And he talks about there's 3 or 4 different kinds of people like that. And that if everybody tunes into what the energy of the group is, you can feel who's supposed to talk next. You can feel whose turn it is because the energy will just kind of flow to that person. So I think it's really all of the work that we do in terms of our spiritual practice and getting centered and listening within. Cooperation shows up in a group when people are doing that, because you know if you're speaking when you shouldn't be speaking, and you know if you should be speaking but you're not. You know, you kind of know how the flow of the energy is going if you're tuned in. So I think as long as we encourage people to be into their spiritual practice, that cooperation comes better for a group than if there's no spiritual basis in the group.
In a practical sense, what I've done is just stopped and reminded everybody of the goal. To take a minute to refocus, to refocus, and especially when like Geneva was saying, when there's somebody that's not being cooperative or has a different agenda, to stop, take a breath, pray, recenter, and then have a discussion about, okay, what is our goal? What are we trying to accomplish? Because that takes it out of the ego and back to the group. And it's kind of it practically, it makes whoever it is that's kind of out there come back, because that's where the rest of the group is going.
That's why
And that's good to, go ahead.
why we have that policy or whatever you want to call it, where in a board meeting, if things are getting a little confusing or
Heated?
or contentious, that's the word, thank you, that we stop and do treatment.
Yes.
Because treatment gets us centered back to that place where we're open to cooperating.
Well, that's good. That's a good idea.
You guys are telling me now we have to be selective in the groups that we decide to play in, because some groups don't want to pray. You know, they want to keep their egos going. So we really have to be mindful of the groups that we decide to insert ourselves in, be it a new friend, be it a new community, be it a new family. If they're not in a praying mode that they think they have the answers, we might not be a good fit.
Right. A new band, we can't get.
That's a good point, because if you can't stop and pray, because I find people that don't want to pray.
Right.
So now where are we going?
Exactly.
Right.
Well, now, when I was teaching school, every morning, regardless of what the media says, this is what we were doing at the schools I taught at. The first thing you have is a moment, let's see, you have the pledge to the flag, and then we had a moment of silence. And I would have some students tell me they don't believe in God, or not sure about God, or they don't want to pray. And I said, that's okay. You know, it's a free country and you have that right to choose. And I'm not asking you to say a prayer. I'm just asking you to be respectful of other people that want to pray, that want to start their day that way. And so they seem to understand. And it was the same thing with the pledge. Some students wouldn't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would say, that's okay. And sometimes it was for religious purposes. Like one religious group said they only pledge allegiance to God, not to a flag or a country or anything like that. And I said, that's okay. You don't have to say the pledge, but you do need to stand up and give respect to the flag that represents the country that you're living in. They didn't have any problem with that. So sometimes, you know, even though you got people, all kinds of different people for different reasons that might not want to pray or, you know, observe something that most people might think of as, I don't know, traditional, normal. You know, it happens. And so we don't always have to say God, but we could say, let's just pause and take a deep breath. And that's a prayer, isn't it?
You know, I use that all the time, pause, practice and play, because they don't want to hear the prayer, so it's the same thing to me. So
Right.
just stop, don't say anything, you know,
Mhm.
even if you're not talking. So I thank you for that, because everybody does have free will and they get to do what they want, and you're respectful for everyone, and that's a big deal. That's a prayer to me in itself.
Yes, it is.
And I think just feeling the energy sometimes of a group, you know, I mean, you know, I've been involved in a couple of groups that where it was it started out a really good group with a good purpose, but the energy became so in this political climate, particularly, the energy would sometimes become so negative or so angry that I felt tired, you know, after, and I just don't have room or space in my life for
Amen.
that kind of stuff.
Amen.
And it, you know, I think whether it's about prayer or whatever, but when we sense that negative energy, you know, that we have to take care of ourselves. You know, I mean, you can only build cooperation with among people who are willing to be cooperative, don't you
That's
think?
true.
Powerful.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said.
Okay, Peter, it is 6:58.
Well,
Oh.
if, we can keep discussing or cooperating or, but I do want to add one thing though, that I did, I believe I came to realize now with these, peace talks. Now, I got in, I don't know, I can't tell you what the first one was, but I got in on the, communication. And so this one here was, you know, we were on cooperation. And so then I think what Geneve, you're in forgiveness next week. And you know, I see kind of like a little pattern where all three of these so far all funnel into communication and cooperation. And it's like they're all kind of like all one little you know, one little entity, you know. So I'm kind of excited.
Well, they work together.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, they work together.
The very first one was peace, Peter. I did that one. The
Uh-huh.
peace, and like you said, communication was next. And then tonight is cooperation, and then forgiveness. And Cassie and I kind of picked them out because there's 64 attributes, because we have them in our e-blast, but we picked out the ones that we thought we'd want to dialogue about the most. So I'm glad that we're finding a theme. And so we did pretty good there when Cassie selected
Yeah. 'Cause
the order that we selected. So I'm glad that you've seen there's a rhythm with it. But yeah, we started out with the word peace.
oh, all right, okay.
Well, thank you. I've got to, kind of fading here, but you guys can go
Well,
on.
we're pretty much, at the end of our hour, so are there any other comments?
I was just gonna tell Peter and Jan, I thought she picked you because you're cute. I didn't know, I didn't have that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, I thought Nancy picked you guys to do this because you're adorable. I
That
thought
too.
that,
Two.
We're like cats and dogs.
and we're gonna sign you up for the band.
Well, I think you guys did a fantastic job. Let's
Yes,
give them
thank
a
you.
hand.
Well, you guys, thank you for showing up.
Oh, you
And
need
we'll close out with a treatment so we can all get home safe, and you guys are already home. So keep your eyes open or closed. This dialogue has been from God. Each of us are a representation of God, and everything that we said was so cooperative. We're getting ready to send this out to the world. We didn't even have to pause the recording because everything is for the world to hear that we are here to make a difference at SEC. So we thank our facilitators, we thank our participants, and we thank the world that's going to join us collaboratively to make a difference in peace and communication and cooperation. We give thanks, and so it is.
So it
And
is.
so it is.
Thank you.
Thank you,
all,
thank you.
and drive safely back home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. So are we done recording?
Well,
Let's
there,
stop the Cassie's getting over there.
Thanks, guys, love y'all.
I thought it was yours. No, it wasn't.
Love you.
Because I got a question once we're done recording.
About your project.
There we go. Okay, so we stop.